In college algebra, we continued with p5 factoring polynomials. We left off with number 5, so we're going to handle that one. This one's a harder one because that front number, that 8, is there instead of a 1. So, I'm going to give you some steps. I mean, you are welcome to dive into just factoring it using trial and error and figure it out. I don't even need to see work if you can do that. But it is kind of tricky because there's four terms you got to keep in check whenever you FOIL out your factoring. It's got to equal 8x squared minus 10x minus 3. So if the front number is not a 1. So in this case, that front number is 8. Multiply first times last. So I'm going to go 8 times negative 3, and I get negative 24. So that negative 24, I need to find two numbers that multiply to that product, and by that I'm talking about that. So in this case, negative 24, and add to the middle term. So let's do that real quick. I need them to multiply to negative 24, but I need them to add to negative 10. So for example, if you pick negative 8 and positive 3, that multiplies to negative 24, but it adds to negative 5, so that's no deal. What about negative 12 and 2? That multiplies to negative 24, and they add up to negative 10. So those are my two numbers. So step 2, make a box. A 2x2 box. First term in the first spot. Last term in the last spot. The two numbers you found in the remaining two spots. All right, so let's make this box. There we go. First term in the first spot. Last term in the last. I found negative 12 and 2. It doesn't matter which two you put them in. You can mix it up. Technically, you're supposed to have an X on those numbers, so you can put an X in there if you want, but I don't think you have to. I think you're going to be fine. Step 3. This one's hard to describe. Right around the box, outside of the box, factors needed to get inside values. So, I mean, this one is just kind of understood what to do, and that's your answer. That's the answer. All right, so for example, I know 2 and 4 multiply to 8. Now, where you put the 2 and the 4 around the box is crucial because I can't put the 4 here. Let me use a different color. I can't put the 4 here because there's no whole number I could multiply 4 by right here to get the 2. So I'm going to pick 2 here and 4 here. Now I need to be able to get x squared, so I'm going to write an x and an x. And now I can say 2 times something equals 2. That something is a 1. 4 times something gives me negative 12, and that is a negative 3. And then the last check, these last 2 numbers should multiply to give you your last spot, which they do. And you're done. So fill that into the parentheses, and you have it factored. So, I mean, writing the steps out, that's a lot of work that I wrote over there on the right, but I mean, this is all the work needed, and you can go pretty fast once you get the hang of this. Otherwise, it's a lot of trial and error, erasing, trying different numbers to make sure that when you FOIL this thing out, that's the key. So if you're wanting to do it in your head, when you go first times first, outside times outside, inner times inner, last times last, you get what you started with. All right? But that's the answer. It'll work every time if you use that box. All right, let's back up and let's do a problem just like number 4. So on number 6, I need 2 numbers that multiply to negative 18 but add to 3. And by the way, the reason why I'm not concerned about this problem, you don't even have to show this T-chart. You don't have to show any work. There's a 1 on the front right here, which means this is very easy. Find your 2 numbers and you're done. So for example, if I pick negative 9 and 2, that's not going to work. But if I pick positive 6 and negative 3, that will work. That checks out. And that's your answer. X plus 6, x minus 3. So if you can see that with no work, then you're good to go. All right, number 7 is kind of weird. I'm going to erase, try and give myself some more room. It's the same idea as number 5. I have a number in front. I have a 2. But we have a y squared on the last term and an xy in the middle. So what I would recommend you do is kind of ignore the y's right now, and we'll deal with those at the very end. I mean, to be honest, when I factor this thing, I'm just going to have an x on my front numbers, and I'm going to have a y on my last numbers, because I'm going to go x times x, and I'm going to get x squared. I'm going to go y times y, and I'm going to get y squared. And then when I do the inner and outers, I'm going to add, and I'll get xy. So, I mean, you could account for it right now if you want and just write the x's and the y's. It's just a question of what those numbers are. This one would be an easy one to do in your head because there are not many factors of 2 and not many factors of 3. So, for example, you could go ahead and just decide. You're going to do 2 times 1, so just x, to get 2x squared. Now, I need to end up with a negative 7, so I'm going to use negative 3 and negative 1 to multiply to get a positive 3. Now, if I put that negative 3 right here, I need to be able to add up two different terms to get negative 7. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's going to give me a negative 5. But if I put a negative 3 right here, look, we're going to multiply and get a negative 6. Put a negative 1 right here, get a negative 1. Look at that. They add up to negative 7xy. It's factored. Once you get the hang of playing with those numbers like that, then it is not so bad at all. All right, but I'm going to show you the box method. Actually, let's leave the answer up there so we can check it. And I want you to see that it is doable without the box. So that would be the answer right there. But let's do the box method. You multiply first times last. 2 times 3. So I need two numbers that multiply to 6, but they add to negative 7. And that should be very easy, because I know 6 and 1 add up to 7, so let's make them both negative. Then you make your box. First term in the first spot, last term in the last spot. The two numbers I found go in the remaining spots. And I write around my box to get what I would multiply by to get the inside. So for the number 2, like we saw a second ago, there's only two numbers to use, a 2 and a 1. I can't put a 2 here because I want to multiply by something to get negative 1. So I'm going to put the 2 up here. And that would mean I have a 1x right there. 1 times something gives me negative 1. And we're going to say negative 1. 2 times something gives me negative 6. And that's negative 3. But remember, we have the y's. So you need to make sure you have a y there. And now you're good to go. And look, we have that written already up there. All right, that's enough for today. See y'all later.